Hey guys, tonight we wander into the surprisingly intimate world of ancient Egyptian laundry techniques. A world where clean clothes weren't just about looking good, but carried deep cultural and spiritual meaning. Imagine yourself on the dusty banks of the Nile, linen skirts brushing against warm sand, the sun beating down mercilessly, and the ever-present scent of papyrus mingling with the aroma of resin. You probably won't survive this without at least a mild appreciation for the humble art of staying fresh in a civilization that didn't have your modern washing machine humming quietly in the background. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your location and local time in the comments so we can share this slow journey across time and space. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge through the bustling streets of an ancient Egyptian city. Linen garments drape your shoulders, thin, light, and perfect for the desert heat. The Egyptians favored linen because it was breathable and practical. Cotton, surprisingly, had not yet made its grand entrance, and wool was too warm for this climate. Your robe's weave is coarse yet effective at keeping you cool, though it's no stranger to the dust and sweat of daily life. Cleanliness here isn't merely a preference, but a mark of social status and spiritual purity. The dry climate ironically makes dirt more stubborn, clinging to fabric with the stubbornness of the desert sun. Historians still argue whether Egyptians considered laundry a routine chore or a sacred ritual tied to their belief systems. What's clear is that the importance of clean linen stretched beyond vanity. From farmers to priests, clothing signaled identity and respectability. You might spot scribes meticulously folding their white kilts, while laborers sport worn, patched tunics. Laundry practices reflected these social layers. And don't be fooled into thinking laundry was a quick splash and go. This was a daily engagement with water, touch, and time, carefully balanced against the limitations of the environment. You breathe in the faintly earthy scent of flax fibers woven by expert hands, imagining the whole chain from plant to fabric to your very skin. Linen was prized not just for comfort, but for its association with the gods. In fact, priests often changed their linen garments multiple times a day to maintain ritual cleanliness, elevating laundry to a spiritual act. As you walk, you notice the contrast between the sun-bleached whites and the dusty ochres of the streets, a constant reminder that keeping clothes clean here is a labor of patience and care, far removed from the flick of a machine cycle. So, your journey begins amid soft fibers and hard realities, a reminder that even in the ancient world, the quest for fresh laundry was no small matter. You wake early as the first rosy fingers of dawn touch the Nile's calm surface, the soft lapping of water against mud brick walls filling your ears. In this slow-moving city, laundry isn't just a chore, but a rhythm tied to the flow of daily life along the river. Those responsible for cleaning clothes, the launderers, are mostly women, moving gracefully between shade and sunlight, balancing basins and bundles of linen with practiced ease. Their role is an intricate dance of labor and community, often shared among family members or neighbors. Imagine a woman seated on a low stool near a basin carved from stone or clay, dipping linen into cool water, her fingers working with the same delicate care one might use to cradle a fragile papyrus scroll. This isn't a rush job. It's a moment to connect with others, exchange gossip, and pass down secrets of stain removal that have survived generations. But not all laundry hands are equal. In wealthier households, slaves or servants take on the task, sometimes dedicating entire days to the smooth care of precious textiles. At temples, specially appointed attendants wash the garments of priests and sacred statues, elevating the act beyond the mundane. Historians still argue whether these temple laundresses followed stricter ritualistic procedures than their commoner counterparts. But what's clear is that cleanliness was intertwined with spiritual purity. As you follow these figures through their day, you notice the tools of the trade. Simple wooden paddles to beat out dust, smooth stones to rub fabric, and large basins to hold precious water. There's no soap as we know it, but herbs and minerals often accompany the washing, lending subtle scents and sometimes acting as gentle cleansers. The work is physically demanding. Wringing wet linen under the blazing sun is no small feat, but there's also a quiet pride in restoring brightness to dull fabrics and softness to coarse fibers. Laundry Day brings a certain social pulse to neighborhoods. Women gather by wells or riverbanks, chatting softly, their laughter mingling with the splash of water and the distant calls of market vendors. The Nile's steady presence offers both a blessing and a challenge. Water is plentiful, but the timing and location of washes must suit the flow of daily life and the demands of other chores. This gentle choreography of daily life unfolds slowly, with patience and care, underscoring how laundry was both a practical necessity and a communal ritual that shaped the rhythms of ancient Egyptian society. You find yourself beside the Nile once again, where the river's slow current has shaped the lives of countless generations. Water is the lifeblood of this ancient civilization, yet paradoxically, it is also a limited and carefully managed resource, especially when it comes to laundry. You soon learn that washing clothes here isn't as simple as dipping fabric into an endless stream. Instead, it's a delicate balancing act involving timing, location, and respect for the sacred river itself. The Nile's annual flood, or inundation, brings fresh water and fertile silt, but also a challenge. During these months, washing is often impossible or ill-advised due to rising water levels and muddy currents. You imagine launderers planning their work around the ebb and flow, choosing early mornings or late afternoons when the water is calm and clear. This natural schedule becomes a slow pulse that guides many domestic activities, including laundry. To collect water, people rely on shadufs, simple counterweight poles with buckets, that scoop water from the river's edge. These devices require muscle and patience, underscoring how labor-intensive even fetching water was before washing could begin. Historians still debate whether Egyptians ever used any form of water storage for laundry purposes, or if most washing happened immediately beside the Nile. Sometimes, washing takes place in smaller canals or basins fed by the Nile, where the water is less turbulent and more accessible. These spots, tucked away from the busiest parts of town, offer quieter spaces for the careful soaking and scrubbing of precious linens. You might hear the gentle splash of water, the soft rubbing of fabric, and the occasional bird call, a soundscape that soothes the senses while the hard work unfolds. The harsh Egyptian sun plays a dual role. It dries damp clothes quickly, but also intensifies the challenge of managing water carefully. Too much water wasted is not only impractical, but disrespectful to a resource tied so closely to survival. You picture the launderer's practiced hands wringing out wet fabric with exacting force, ensuring no drop goes to waste. Water quality was also a concern. Nile water, though vital, could carry silt and organic matter that might stain or wear fabric over time. To combat this, people use sedimentation basins, allowing dirt to settle before using the water for washing. Such small but crucial innovations highlight the Egyptians' intimate relationship with their environment. As the day drifts on, you reflect on how water management was more than logistics. It was part of the ancient Egyptian worldview, blending practicality with reverence. Every splash, every soak, and every rinse carried echoes of life and renewal, mirroring the rhythms of the river itself. You're now holding a curious little lump between your fingers, a natural substance the ancient Egyptians might have called soap, though what it actually was differs quite a bit from the bubbly soaps you're used to. This mysterious cleaning agent has sparked more than a few debates among historians and archaeologists, who still argue whether the Egyptians truly had soap as we understand it, or if they simply relied on other natural substances to freshen their clothes. Let's start with what you probably imagine, a lathery bar of soap. In reality, ancient Egyptian soap was more of a gritty paste or powder made from a mixture of animal fats and alkaline plant ashes. These ashes came from things like saltwort and other desert plants rich in sodium carbonate, a natural cleaning agent. This early soap didn't bubble or smell like a modern spa. Instead, it was functional and earthy, helping to break down grease and grime without all the foaming fun. But here's the quirky bit. There's evidence that some Egyptians used alkaline clays and even natron, a naturally occurring salt mix, for cleaning purposes. Natron wasn't just for mummification. It doubled as a laundry aid and a mild disinfectant. Imagine sprinkling this salt onto your linen, then scrubbing and rinsing to lift out dirt and odors. It's like an ancient, dusty exfoliation for your clothes. Now, despite these clever concoctions, historians still debate whether these early substances were widespread enough to be called true soap, or if washing was mainly done with water, scrubbing, and natural abrasives like sand. Some argue that the soap-like materials were reserved for high-status individuals or temple use, while common folk stuck to simpler methods. Adding to the intrigue, Egyptian medical papyri occasionally mention soap in relation to skin treatments, suggesting the same materials serve dual purposes: body, cleansing, and laundry. You can almost picture a multitasking bar of soap, tackling both your dirt and your eczema in one go. Of course, fragrance was a whole other matter. Egyptians loved scented oils and resins, often adding them after washing to mask any lingering smells. So while their soap might not have smelled like lavender fields, their linens certainly smelled pleasantly exotic, thanks to aromatic herbs and flowers. So, when you think about ancient Egyptian soap, remember it's a mix of science, nature, and a bit of mystery, an early experiment in cleanliness that still keeps historians guessing. You find yourself by the riverbank again, where the real artistry of ancient Egyptian laundry unfolds, not just in what they used, but in how they used it. Washing clothes wasn't a quick dunk and rinse. It was a carefully choreographed process involving simple tools, natural materials, and surprisingly effective techniques passed down through generations. First, you notice that the Egyptians favored manual methods. They didn't have washing machines, obviously, but their hands, stones, and wooden implements did the work just fine. For instance, to remove dust and dirt, they often beat their linen against large flat stones or wooden paddles. This rhythmic pounding loosened the grime embedded in the fabric's fibers, much like a primitive but effective version of a modern washing machine's agitation. Next comes soaking. Laundry would be soaked in basins or calm stretches of the Nile or its canals, allowing the water to soften the fabric and dissolve some stains. But soaking wasn't enough, so rubbing became essential. Egyptians used small stones, sand, or even crushed plant materials as gentle abrasives, scrubbing their linen to remove stubborn dirt without damaging the delicate flax fibers. Intriguingly, some evidence suggests that certain plants, like the soapwort and the root of the soapberry tree, might have been used to enhance cleaning power. These plants release saponins, a natural detergent, when crushed and soaked in water. Although scholars still debate how widespread their use was, it adds a botanical twist to the washing ritual. Laundry tools also included basins carved from stone or clay, and wooden scrapers shaped to assist in the cleaning process. These tools weren't just functional. They were carefully maintained and sometimes decorated, showing a respect for the craft that goes beyond mere utility. The entire washing session is slow and methodical, punctuated by soft splashes and the swish of fabric being manipulated. It's a sensory experience as much as a chore. The coolness of water against sun-warmed skin, the gritty texture of sand or crushed plants, and the gradual lightening of linen colors as dirt is coaxed away. Historians still argue whether these techniques were standardized or varied widely across regions and social classes. But what remains clear is that ancient Egyptian laundry was an intimate blend of nature, patience, and ingenuity, a quiet labor that sustained daily life and spiritual cleanliness. You've just dipped your hand into a basin filled with Nile water mixed with crushed herbs and gritty sand, the Egyptian recipe for tackling stains. Stains in ancient Egypt were a persistent nuisance. The hot sun and dusty environment made linen garments prone to sweat marks, dirt patches, and the occasional splash of wine or food. But worry not. These ancient launderers had their clever secrets for stain removal that might surprise you. First, there was a surprising use of natural acids. Egyptians often turned to sour milk or fermented fruit juices, both mildly acidic, to help break down tough stains. You might find yourself rubbing a bit of curdled milk onto a stubborn mark, then rinsing it off in cool water. This isn't so different from modern stain removers, if you think about it, just a little less commercial and a little more pastoral. Another popular method involved the use of alkaline substances, like natron, which you met earlier, or ash from burnt plants. These substances acted as gentle abrasives and chemical agents that lifted grime without ruining the delicate weave of linen. Launderers would sprinkle these powders onto the fabric and gently rub them in, sometimes following up with a rinse in pure water. One of the quirkiest tidbits is that some ancient texts hint at the use of crocodile dung as a cleaning agent, though historians remain divided on whether this was literal advice or a mistranslation of ancient recipes. If true, it sounds like the ultimate you moment, but some researchers suggest the dung's enzymes could have had mild cleansing properties. You might want to keep that one in the weird history folder for now. Sweat and body oils were particularly tough to remove, especially given the lack of synthetic detergents. Egyptians relied on repeated soaking and vigorous scrubbing, sometimes even sun-bleaching garments to lighten stains. Drying clothes in direct sunlight wasn't just practical, but helped fade stubborn marks naturally. Historians still argue whether some stain removal methods were common knowledge or closely guarded secrets passed down within families or guilds. It's easy to imagine a launderer's pride in mastering these techniques, turning the mundane into a skilled craft. So next time you spot a faint stain on your favorite shirt, remember, ancient Egyptians were there first, wrestling with dirt and sweat under the unforgiving desert sun, armed with nothing but milk, ashes, and a bit of grit. You stretch out your damp linen on a smooth stone under the relentless Egyptian sun, feeling the warmth seep into the fibers as you prepare for the next crucial step, drying and pressing. In a land where the sun is as constant as the Nile's flow, drying clothes was both a blessing and a challenge. The hot, dry climate meant linens could dry quickly, but the intense sun also threatened to weaken and discolor the delicate flax fibers if left too long. The Egyptians approached drying with a practiced eye. They would hang or lay out their linens on flat rocks, wooden frames, or even rooftops, carefully spreading them to catch just the right amount of sunlight and breeze. You might hear the soft flutter of fabric in a breeze, a gentle soundtrack to the slow transformation from soaked cloth to crisp garment. Drying wasn't merely about removing water. It was also part of the process that maintained the garment's shape and texture. To keep linen looking fresh and neat, Egyptians often used smooth stones to press the fabric once dry, a bit like an ancient iron. This stone pressing flattened wrinkles and gave garments that signature crispness, which was a mark of cleanliness and social status. Interestingly, some records suggest that launderers would periodically dampen the cloth before pressing it again, helping to smooth out stubborn creases. This technique required patience and a delicate touch to avoid stretching or damaging the fabric. You can almost imagine the rhythm of wetting, pressing, and drying, a tactile meditation that connected the launderer intimately with the material. Sunlight played a dual role here. While it dried clothes efficiently, it also had natural bleaching properties. Over time, repeated sun exposure helped keep linen brilliantly white, but launderers had to be mindful not to leave garments too long lest they yellowed or weakened. It's a balancing act that required experience, a bit like cooking a perfect souffle without burning the edges. Historians still argue whether pressing was an everyday practice or reserved for special garments worn by the elite or priests. Regardless, the attention to drying and pressing reflects the Egyptians' broader cultural appreciation for order, neatness, and ritual purity. So, as you feel the linen's crisp edges against your fingertips, remember this isn't just laundry. It's a slow, deliberate art form shaped by sun, stone, and time. You catch a faint whiff of something sweet and herbal drifting through the air, It's the subtle fragrance Egyptians prized, carefully woven into their laundry rituals. Cleanliness alone wasn't enough. Scent mattered, softly enhancing the experience without overpowering the senses, much like a delicate whisper rather than a loud proclamation. Perfuming laundry was an art in itself. After washing and drying, linens were often rubbed with scented oils extracted from flowers like lotus, jasmine, and myrrh. These oils weren't just cosmetic. They had symbolic meanings, connecting the wearer to divine favor and purity. Imagine a gentle touch of fragrant oil warming your skin, the subtle aroma mingling with the sun-bleached linen, a sensory luxury in an otherwise pragmatic world. But Egyptians were no strangers to restraint. They avoided strong odors, which could be associated with decay or disease. Instead, the goal was a soft, comforting scent, a natural freshness that hinted at cleanliness and well-being. Sometimes, dried herbs or resin fragments were tucked between folds of linen during storage to keep clothes smelling pleasant over time. Intriguingly, some laundry treatments involve soaking clothes in water infused with aromatic plants like cedar and cinnamon. These fragrant baths weren't just for scent. They were believed to have mild antibacterial properties, blending hygiene with ritual care. Historians still argue how widespread and consistent these practices were, but the evidence points to a sophisticated appreciation for fragrance as part of everyday life. There's also a charming anecdote about Cleopatra supposedly bathing in scented waters, though that might be a bit of a legend. Still, it captures the Egyptian passion for pleasant aromas that permeated not just their bodies but their surroundings, including the linens that touch their skin daily. So next time you fluff a pillow or smooth out a shirt, remember that ancient Egyptians were among the first to think about how scent and cleanliness go hand in hand, not with overpowering perfumes, but with gentle, soothing fragrances that invite calm and comfort. You find yourself standing quietly inside a cool, dimly lit temple, where the scent of incense hangs gently in the air, mixing with the faint, clean smell of freshly laundered linen. In ancient Egypt, laundry was not just a domestic chore. It was deeply woven into religious life, a ritual that extended far beyond the everyday. The act of washing clothes took on spiritual significance, a way to honor the gods and maintain sacred purity. Priests and temple attendants paid meticulous attention to cleanliness. Their garments, often made of the finest linen, were washed multiple times a day to ensure they remained spotless and ritually pure. You can imagine the gentle rustle of white robes as priests move through the sacred halls, their clothing symbolizing a bridge between the mortal world and the divine. Washing wasn't only for the living. Sacred statues and temple furnishings also received regular cleansing. Linen wrappings on statues, ceremonial cloths, and altar coverings were laundered with care, embodying the belief that purity maintained a connection with the gods. Some scholars still debate whether these washing rituals followed strict protocols unique to temples, or if they mirrored the broader customs practiced by lay people. The water used in temple washings was often drawn with reverence, sometimes blessed or filtered through rituals to ensure it was pure. You might imagine the solemn silence as attendants carried out these duties, the slow, deliberate motions reflecting the sacred nature of their task. Even the soaps and perfumes used had symbolic meaning. The fragrant oils and cleansing powders were chosen not just for their practical effect, but for their associations with healing, protection, and renewal. In this way, laundry became an act of devotion, blending the physical and spiritual realms. As you stand amidst these ritual washings, you realize that cleanliness was much more than hygiene. It was an expression of order, harmony, and respect for the cosmic balance, central themes in ancient Egyptian belief. This slow, reverent approach to laundry reminds you that sometimes the simplest acts can carry profound meaning, especially when performed with intention and care. You pick up a piece of linen, noticing a faint tear along its edge. Nothing unusual in a world where garments were precious and mended rather than discarded. In ancient Egypt, textile repairs were an essential part of laundry and garment care. revealing a culture of resourcefulness and respect for material goods long before fast fashion made waste commonplace. Mending linen was both practical and artistic. Skilled hands used fine needles and threads spun from flax to carefully stitch tears and holes, often employing simple but effective techniques like darning and patching. Sometimes, patches were decorative, adding subtle patterns or reinforcing areas prone to wear, especially around sleeves or hems. Because textiles were costly and labor-intensive to produce, maintaining garments extended their lifespan significantly. You might imagine the patience involved: slow, deliberate stitches, a quiet focus as the launderer brings fabric back to life. It wasn't just about function, but preserving the dignity of the wearer. In wealthier households, professional tailors or laundresses took on repairs, while common folk handled mending at home, sometimes passing down these skills through generations. Historians still debate how widespread specialized repair services were, but the archaeological record reveals repaired linens even among the elite. Beyond tears, laundering sometimes involved reinforcing fabric weakened by repeated washing and sun exposure. This proactive care speaks to a deep understanding of materials and a commitment to sustainability born out of necessity. Interestingly, some repaired garments included symbolic stitches or knots, perhaps to protect the wearer or imbue the fabric with good fortune, a reminder that clothes were intertwined with both practical and spiritual lives. So, as you carefully mend your own favorite shirt or patch a hole, you're participating in a tradition as old as the Nile itself, a slow, thoughtful act that honors the story woven into every thread. You step into a bustling marketplace, where the scent of spices mingles with the occasional waft of fresh laundry drying in the sun. Laundry, you soon realize, was more than a household chore in ancient Egypt. It was a small but vital economy shaped by social class and the division of labor. How you cared for your clothes often spoke volumes about your place in society. For the wealthy elite, laundry was a luxury service, often performed by dedicated servants or slaves. These professionals handled delicate linens with expert care, ensuring garments remained pristine and perfectly pressed. Their skills were prized, and their labor allowed the upper classes to project an image of refinement and ritual purity. You can almost hear the gentle folding of robes and the soft rustle of fine linen as servants meticulously prepared clothes for daily wear and ceremonial occasions. Meanwhile, for common folk, farmers, artisans, and laborers, laundry was usually a personal or family task, carried out with more basic tools and materials. The fabrics tended to be coarser and the washing less frequent, reflecting both economic constraints and the practicalities of daily life. Still, pride in cleanliness and appearance persisted across all levels, and people employed whatever means they had to maintain their clothing. Interestingly, some middle-class households might hire itinerant launderers, specialists who traveled between villages offering their washing services. These professionals were well-versed in stain removal, drying techniques, and fabric care, often carrying their own tools and natural detergents. Historians still argue about how widespread such services were, but inscriptions and tomb paintings provide tantalizing glimpses. Laundry was also linked to social rituals. Freshly cleaned and pressed linen was essential for temple visits, market days, and festivals. Wearing clean clothes wasn't merely about hygiene. It was a statement of respectability and belonging. So, as you imagine the gentle hands washing, scrubbing, and folding linens across Egypt's social strata, you see how laundry shaped and reflected the rhythms of life, from humble homes to grand palaces, connecting people through the shared desire for freshness and dignity. You find yourself in the midst of a lively festival, colorful banners fluttering and the scent of roasted meats mingling with the crisp, clean air. During special occasions and seasonal celebrations, laundry took on a distinct role, transforming from everyday necessity into a ceremonial act that prepared people to honor their gods and communities. Before major festivals, families would wash and press their best linen garments, ensuring they were spotless and pristine for the occasion. The bright white of freshly cleaned linen symbolized purity, renewal, and respect, qualities deeply woven into the spiritual fabric of Egyptian life. You can imagine the careful folding and hanging of clothes, the rhythmic beating of fabrics against stones, and the anticipation of donning these refreshed garments to join the festivities. Some festivals demanded specific attire, and laundering these special garments might involve additional steps, such as applying scented oils or embroidering with colorful threads. For priests and temple workers, the ceremonial washing of vestments was itself a sacred ritual, reinforcing the connection between cleanliness and divine favor. Seasonal changes also influenced laundry routines. The scorching summer months required more frequent washing and airing of clothes to combat sweat and dust, while cooler seasons allowed for less intensive care. Yet, certain textiles reserved for celebrations were treated with the utmost care year-round. Interestingly, some records hint at communal laundry days tied to the agricultural calendar, where neighbors gathered not only to clean their clothes but to share stories, songs, and food, a gentle reminder that laundry was as much about social bonds as it was about cleanliness. Historians still debate how standardized these festival-related laundry practices were across different regions and classes, but the importance of fresh, well-maintained clothing in ritual contexts is clear. So, next time you prep an outfit for a special event, remember that you're following in the footsteps of ancient Egyptians who understood that clean clothes were part of celebrating life's most meaningful moments. You shudder slightly as you recall that even in ancient Egypt, laundry had its less glamorous moments. Bugs, smells, and unexpected mishaps were all part of the package. The dry climate helped prevent some problems, but didn't eliminate the everyday nuisances that made laundering a sometimes frustrating task. One common challenge was dealing with pests. Fleas and lice were not uncommon, especially in crowded living quarters. Linen, while breathable, could harbor these tiny intruders if not washed regularly. Launderers sometimes added aromatic herbs like mint or wormwood to laundry water, hoping to repel unwanted guests. You can almost imagine the faint herbal scent mingling with the warmth of drying clothes as a natural bug deterrent. Odors also posed a tricky problem. Without modern detergents, removing body oils and sweat was difficult, especially for those who labored in the sun all day. Sometimes, garments would retain faint but persistent smells despite multiple washes. This explains why Egyptians favored perfuming laundry with subtle scents, turning a practical problem into a sensory solution. And then there were the mishaps, the accidental tearing of delicate linen, stains that refused to budge, or water shortages that forced launderers to improvise. You might envision a launderer carefully patching a torn garment or hurriedly finishing a load before the sun set, hoping the next day would bring better luck. Historians still argue about how frequent these challenges were and how much they impacted daily life. But the evidence suggests that launderers were resilient and inventive, adapting to their environment with grace. Laundry in ancient Egypt wasn't always a serene ritual. It had its moments of frustration and problem-solving, much like your own laundry days today, proving that some struggles truly transcend time. You crouch down beside a dusty excavation site, brushing away layers of sand to uncover fragments of ancient life. Among them, remnants of laundry tools and fabrics that have survived thousands of years. Archaeological finds like these are our window into the laundry practices of ancient Egypt, though they often raise as many questions as they answer. Linen fragments recovered from tombs and settlements reveal details about weaving techniques, fabric quality, and were patterns that hint at how clothes were washed and maintained. Some linens show signs of repeated mending, while others bear faint residues of plant ashes or oils, suggesting cleaning methods. You might almost feel the rough texture beneath your fingertips, a tactile link to the past. Tools such as stone basins, wooden paddles, and scrapers have been found in domestic and temple contexts, supporting written records about laundering activities. Occasionally, small containers with residues of scented oils or cleaning substances emerge, giving clues to the perfuming and soap-like materials Egyptians used. Yet, much remains uncertain. Historians and archaeologists still debate the interpretation of these finds. Were certain tools exclusive to temples or elite households? How widespread were soap-like substances? Did washing practices vary regionally or evolve significantly over time? Ancient texts, from medical papyri to household manuals, complement the physical evidence, offering recipes for cleaning agents and instructions for garment care. However, these writings can be fragmentary or symbolic, requiring careful reading between the lines. The patchwork of artifacts and documents creates a vivid but incomplete picture, a puzzle that invites ongoing discovery and reinterpretation. Each new find has the potential to challenge long-held assumptions about this seemingly simple, yet culturally rich aspect of daily life. So, as you gaze upon these ancient remnants, you realize that the story of Egyptian laundry is still unfolding, a fascinating blend of fact, theory, and mystery that keeps historians intrigued. You sit quietly, contemplating how the humble art of laundry in ancient Egypt echoes through time, weaving its influence into later cultures and even modern practices. Though centuries and civilizations have passed, some elements of these early washing rituals still resonate today, reminding us that caring for clothes has always been a blend of necessity, ingenuity, and a touch of ceremony. The use of natural cleaning agents, like alkaline ashes and plant extracts, foreshadows modern eco-friendly detergents, highlighting an ancient awareness of sustainable resources. Linen, prized for its breathability and comfort, remains a fabric beloved in warm climates worldwide, its legacy tracing back to Egyptian flax fields. Washing techniques involving beating, soaking, and gentle abrasion appear in later Mediterranean and Middle Eastern cultures, suggesting a continuity of practice and knowledge exchange along trade routes. Even the ritual importance of cleanliness, seen in temple washings and religious ceremonies, finds echoes in various faith traditions that emphasize purification through water. Yet, many mysteries endure. Historians still argue about the precise formulations of ancient Egyptian soaps, the extent of their use among different social strata, and how regional variations influenced laundry customs. These open questions invite ongoing research and imagination. As the modern world hums with machines and synthetic detergents, you might pause to appreciate the slow, tactile relationship Egyptians had with their clothes, a rhythm of hand, water, sun, and earth that connected wearer and fabric intimately. So, as you fold your own fresh laundry tonight, remember that you're participating in a ritual thousands of years old, a timeless act that blends practicality with care, tradition with personal touch. OUV reached the end of the journey through ancient Egyptian laundry techniques, a world where every thread tells a story of culture, environment, and human ingenuity. Now, take a deep breath, feel the softness of your linens, and let your mind drift on the gentle currents of history. The river's slow flow reminds you that some things, like care and patience, never go out of style. Sleep well, wrapped in the comfort of timeless traditions.